Hello, it's Willie from the Ozarks and ready for our January 22nd lesson in A Course in Miracles workbook for students. What I see is a form of vengeance, lesson 22 from the original edition. What I see is a form of vengeance. Today's idea accurately describes the way anyone who holds attack thoughts in his mind must see the world. Having projected his anger onto the world, he sees vengeance about to strike at him. Remember, what you sow is what you're going to reap. His own attack is thus perceived as self-defense. This becomes an increasingly vicious circle until he is willing to change how he sees. Remember, the thought is what is making the world you see. Otherwise, thoughts of attack and counterattack will preoccupy him and people his entire world. What peace of mind is possible to him then? It is from this savage fantasy that you want to escape. Is it not joyous news to hear that it is not real? Is it not a happy discovery to find that you can escape? You made what you would destroy, everything that you hate and would attack and kill. All that you fear does not exist. Look at the world about you at least 5 times today for at least a minute each time. As your eyes move slowly from one object to another, from one body to another, say to yourself, I see only the perishable. I see nothing that will last. What I see is not real. What I see is a form of vengeance. At the end of each practice period, ask yourself, is this the world I really want to see? The answer is obvious. The answer is surely obvious. Okay, so we're going to say, I see only the perishable. I see nothing that will last. What I see is not real. What I see is a form of vengeance. As we look around for about a minute, 5 times today, and just repeat that little set of sentences. I see only, and I usually keep my book or my card. Keep your card or your book right in front of you. That way, if you forget what you're supposed to be saying as you look around, you can glance down as part of your practice and say, I see only the perishable. I see nothing that will last. What I see is not real. What I see is a form of vengeance. Of course, to memorize it, probably make it a little easier. All right, so what I see is a form of vengeance. Let's take a look in our text reading, and we're ready for, what was it? In chapter 7, the consistency of the kingdom, healing and the changelessness of mind. And rather than reading you a whole lot of just disconnected sentences, and I'm afraid that a lot of you are not really getting a lot of meaning out of it, or maybe not as much. I'm just trying to read a few things to kind of motivate you to read it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read a section in, like I said, it's Healing and the Changelessness of Mind, section 6. And I'd just like to read a little excerpt from that, but I'd like for you to read that. If you haven't read it, do so. And I'll give you another little reading assignment at the end here, if you'd like that. We're just trying to get caught up, and then we're going to read together and do a little talking about it as we go for the rest of the book once we get up to chapter 12. But until then, a lot of the students that are following along have been with me for last year, and we're really trying to go through it again. So I just wanted to give a good recap, and then we're going to just pick up where we left off. 47, paragraph 47, the unhealed healer wants gratitude from his brothers, but he is not grateful to them. This is because he thinks he is giving something to them and is not receiving something equally desirable in return. His teaching is limited because he is learning so little. His healing lesson is limited by his own ingratitude, which is a lesson in sickness. Learning is constant and so vital in its power for change that a son of God can recognize his power in one instant and change the world in the next. That is because by changing his mind, He has changed the most powerful device that was ever created for change. This in no way contradicts the changelessness of mind as God created it, but you think that you have changed it as long as you learn through the ego. This does place you in a position of needing to learn a lesson which seems contradictory. You must learn to change your mind about your mind. Only by this can you learn that it is changeless. When you heal, that is exactly what you are learning. You are recognizing the changeless mind in your brother by realizing that he could not have changed his mind. This is how you perceive the Holy Spirit in him. It is only the Holy Spirit in him that never changes his mind. He himself must think as he can, or he would not perceive. Excuse me, let's back up here. I messed up. You are recognizing the changeless mind in your brother by realizing that he could not have changed his mind. That is how you perceive the Holy Spirit in him. It is only the Holy Spirit in him that never changes his mind. He himself must think he can change his mind, or he would not perceive himself as sick. He therefore does not know what his self is. If you see only the changeless in him, you have not really changed him at all. By changing your mind about his for him, you help him undo the change his ego thinks it has made in him. As you can hear two voices, so you can see in two ways. One way shows you an image, or better, an idol, which you may worship out of fear, but which you will never love. The other shows you only truth, which you will love, because you will understand it. Understanding is appreciation, because what you understand you can identify with, and by making it part of you, you have accepted it with love. That is how God himself created you, in understanding, in appreciation, and in love. Another, just a sentence I'd like to read out of the next section, From Vigilance to Peace, section 7. The mind that accepts attack cannot love. So keep that in mind. That's why we want to get rid of this attack thoughts that we seem to think we need to defend ourselves. And then in the last section I'd asked you to read yesterday, the total commitment, section 8. I love this sentence in paragraph 73. Teach no one that he is what you would not want to be. And he goes on to explain that you get trapped in your own perception of what you think they are. That's how you think you are. You want to think of yourself as loving and free, so you want to see your brother as loving and free. All right, let us go take a look in our Manual for Teachers reading. And it looks like my little book, there's it is. We are ready for section 16, which is, how should the teacher of God spend his day? While you're turning there, let me tell you about kale a little bit. We've talked about it before, but kale, I found this, and I got the new the Baker's Creek heirloom seed catalog that's for the new year. So I've been kind of going through it, getting ready to put an order together. And I want to get some scarlet kale growing in my kitchen, in the window, so I can get ready to take it outside and plant it. Look what it says about it. But about the brassica oleraceas in general, it says, kale may be the hardiest of the cabbage kin. It excels in cold weather, tasting best after frost has kissed the tender succulent leaves and making moderate growth whenever there is even a slight warm spell. Start in containers indoor or direct seed in the garden in late June. May also be sown indoors for early spring planting. That's what I want to do right now. Kale thrives in rich soil, heavy in organic matter, and is moisture retentive, but well drained. So that's the kind of soil you want. Good fertile soil that's well drained. And remember, you can make that if you don't have it. You can make your soil to where it'll do that. Scarlet kale. A lovely curled red kale that produces lots of delicious frilly leaves and takes on the chill of winter with stride. Pretty in the flower garden or on the plate, rich in nutrition and flavor. In our preliminary tests, it had almost as much vitamin C as oranges, the most of any kale we tested. And that's the Scarlet Kale. So you can be sure I'll be planting that. And I wanted to show you, remember a couple of days ago I showed you the lentils? How can you see through the glass jar? They're already sprouting. It's only been a couple of days. So those will be ready to green up here in a day or two. So just kind of wanted to show you, that's lentils. All right, how should the teacher of God spend his day? To the advanced teacher of God, this question is meaningless. There is no program, for the lessons in the curriculum change each day. Yet he is sure of but one thing: they do not change at random. Seeing this and understanding it is true, he rests content. He will be told all that his role should be this day and every day. And those who share that role with him will find him, so they can learn the lessons for the day together. Not one is absent whom he needs. Not one is sent without a learning goal already set, and one which can be met that very day. For the advanced teachers of God, then this question is superfluous. It has been asked and answered, and he keeps in constant contact with the answer. He is set and sees the road on which he walks stretched surely and smoothly before him. He always knows that he's going to be shown exactly what to do. This is where we want to be all the time. And then he calls us advanced teachers of God when we get there. They call it adepts in the Orient or in the Eastern thought, yoga. Paragraph 2. And there's lots of other names too. But that's where we're headed. And we'll get there. Every one of us will. Paragraph 2. But what about those who have not reached his certainty? They are not yet ready for such lack of structuring on their own part. What must they do to learn to give the day to God? There are some general rules which do apply, although each one must use them as best he can in his own way. Routines as such are dangerous because they easily become gods in their own right, threatening the very goal for which they were set up. Broadly speaking, then, it can be said that it is well to start the day right. It is always possible to begin again, should the day begin with error. Yet there are obvious advantages in terms of saving time if the need for this can be avoided. So take note that routines can become gods in their own right, and they can be helpful too. But be sure to always listen to the inner voice to keep your routine or not, is the point he's trying to make. Paragraph 3. And that's one of the reasons why I have such a difficult time telling second-year students or people that are just continuing to read the workbook how to do a second and third year or whatever. Because, that's an internal guidance question. You'll know. Just ask. Particularly if you've been through the book even poorly, at least you tried, you're going to have enough internal guidance that you'll be able to know what to do, is basically what I'm suggesting. And there could be a lot of different ways to do it, okay? Paragraph 3, at the beginning it is wise to think in terms of time. This is by no means the ultimate criteria, but at the outset it is probably the simplest to observe. The saving of time is an essential early emphasis which, although it remains important throughout the learning process, becomes less and less emphasized. At the outset, we can safely say that time devoted to starting the day right does indeed save time. How much time should be so spent? This must depend on the teacher of God himself. He cannot claim that title until he has gone through the workbook, since we are learning within the framework of our course. After completion of the more structured practice periods which the workbook contains, individual need becomes the chief consideration. Exactly what I was trying to tell you a while ago. That we just want to go through the workbook and get it down and make sure you've read all the texts, which we're going to get through this year. And then you can say, I'm a teacher of God. Now, you may not yet be an advanced teacher of God, an adept, but you may be. There's no reason why you couldn't be if you did it the way He said to do it. He says that you're going to reach knowledge, or you're going to reach the threshold, and that the last step God takes for you. Of course, by then you're going to realize that your will and God's are one. Okay, paragraph 4. This course is always practical. It may be that the teacher of God is not in a situation which fosters quiet thought as he awakes. If this is so, let him but remember that he chooses to spend time with God as soon as possible, and let him do so. Duration is not the major concern. One can easily sit still an hour with closed eyes and accomplish nothing. One can easily give God only an instant, and in that instant join with Him completely. Perhaps the one generalization that can be made is this: as soon as possible after waking, take your quiet time. Continuing a minute or two after you begin to find it difficult. You may find the difficulty will diminish and drop away. If not, that is the time to stop. Okay, I emphasize over and over, taking a little quiet time in the morning and a little quiet time at night. And let your internal teacher tell you how much. As we go through the workbook, we'll be told specifically in the beginning how much time to use. But then he'll finally turn us over to our own inner guidance at the second part of the book. Paragraph 5. The same procedure should be followed at night. Perhaps your quiet time should be fairly early in the evening if it is not feasible for you to take it just before going to sleep. It is not wise to lie down for it. It is better to sit up in whatever position you prefer. Having gone through the workbook, you must have come to some conclusions in this respect. If possible, however, just before going to sleep is a desirable time to devote to God. It sets your mind into a pattern of rest and orients you away from fear. If it is expedient to spend this time earlier, at least be sure that you do not forget a brief period, not more than a moment will do, in which you close your eyes and think of God. Just remember God. Remember the limitless love of God. Be thankful for the limitless love of God. Paragraph 6. There is one thought in particular that should be remembered throughout the day. It is a thought of pure joy, a thought of peace, a thought of limitless release. Limitless because all things are freed within it. You think you made a place of safety for yourself. You think you made a power that can save you from all the fearful things you see in dreams. It is not so. Your safety lies not there. What you give up is merely the illusion of protecting illusions. And it is this you fear, and only this. How foolish to be so afraid of nothing. Nothing at all! Exclamation point. Your defenses will not work, but you are not in danger. You have no need of them. Recognize this, and they will disappear. And only then will you accept your real protection. Should we read that again? Let's make sure we get there. There is one thought in particular that should be remembered throughout the day. It is a thought of pure joy, a thought of peace, a thought of limitless release. Limitless because all things are freed within it. You think you made a place of safety for yourself. You think you made a power that can save you from all the fearful things you see in dreams. It is not so. Your safety lies not there. What you give up is merely the illusion of protecting illusions. And it is this you fear, and only this. How foolish to be so afraid of nothing. Nothing at all! Exclamation point. Your defenses will not work. But you are not in danger. You have no need of them. Recognize this, and they will disappear, and only then will you accept your real protection. It reminds me of the lesson we're going to get to this year and that we've already been through if you've been through the book. In my defenselessness, my safety lies. That's what he's trying to get us to remember as teachers of God. How simply and how easily does the day slip by for the teacher of God who has accepted his protection. All that he did before in the name of safety no longer interests him, for he is safe and knows it to be so. He has a guide who will not fail. He need make no distinctions among the problems he perceives, for he to whom he turns with all of them recognizes no order of difficulty in resolving them. He is as safe in the present as he was before illusions were accepted into his mind, and as he will be when he has let them go. There is no difference in his state at different times and different places, because they are all one to God. This is his safety, and he has no need for more than this. Paragraph 8. Yet there will be temptations along the way the teacher of God has yet to travel, and he has need of reminding himself throughout the day of his protection. How can he do this? Particularly during the time when his mind is occupied with external things. He can but try, and his success depends on his conviction that he will succeed. He must be sure success is not of him, but will be given him at any time, in any place and circumstance he calls for it. There are times his certainty will waver, and the instant this occurs, he will return to earlier attempts to place reliance on himself alone. Forget not, this is magic, and magic is a sorry substitute for true assistance, which brings the miracle. It is not good enough for God's teacher because it is not good enough for God's son. The avoidance of magic is the avoidance of temptation, for all temptation is nothing more than the attempt to substitute another will for God's. These attempts may indeed seem frightening, yet they are merely pathetic. They have no effect, neither good nor bad, neither rewarding nor demanding sacrifice, healing nor destructive, quieting nor fearful. When all magic is recognized as merely nothing, the teacher of God has reached the most advanced state. When all magic is recognized as merely nothing, the teacher of God has reached the most advanced state. Of course, we have to learn what magic is and understand the difference between magic-mindedness and miracle-mindedness, and then we can begin to sort them out. All intermediate lessons will but lead to this and bring this goal nearer to recognition. What's the goal? When all magic is recognized as merely nothing, the teacher of God has reached the most advanced state. All intermediate lessons will but lead to this and bring this goal nearer to recognition, for magic of any kind in all its forms simply does nothing. Its powerlessness is the reason it can be so easily escaped. What has no effects can hardly terrify. 10. There is no substitute for the will of God. In simple statement, it is to this fact that the teacher of God devotes his day. Let's read that again. There is no substitute for the will of God. In simple statement, it is to this fact that the teacher of God devotes his day. That there's no substitute to the will of God. I'm in God's will. I'm not going to accept any magic thought, any thought that miracle-mindedness is not my native state in this world as a perceiver. Each substitute he may accept as real can but deceive him, but he is safe from all deception if he so decides. Perhaps he needs to remember God is with me. I cannot be deceived. Perhaps he prefers other words, or only one, or none at all. Yet each temptation to accept magic as true must be abandoned through his recognition. Not that it is fearful, not that it is sinful, not that it is dangerous, but merely that it is meaningless. Rooted in sacrifice and separation, two aspects of one error. He merely chooses to give up all that he never had. And for this sacrifice, and that's in quotes because it's not a sacrifice, and for this sacrifice is heaven restored to his awareness. Paragraph 11, last paragraph. Is not this an exchange that you would want? The world would gladly make it if it knew it could be made. That's where you come in. It is God's teachers who must teach it that it can. And so it is their function to make sure that they have learned it. No risk is possible throughout the day except to put your trust in magic, for it is only this that leads to pain. There is no will but God's. His teachers know that this is so and have learned that everything but this is magic. See the definition of magic here? There is no will but God's. His teachers know that this is so and have learned that everything but this is magic. All belief in magic is maintained by just one simple-minded illusion, that it works. All through his training, every day and hour, and even every minute and second, must God's teacher learn to recognize the forms of magic and perceive their meaninglessness. Fear is withdrawn from them, and so they go. And thus the gate of heaven is reopened, and its light can shine again on an untroubled mind. And that's the knowledge that we are inheritance to, or that is actually going on right now. All right, the untroubled mind. The gate of heaven is reopened, and its light can shine again on an untroubled mind. And our last lesson that we're doing today, lesson 22, what I see is a form of vengeance. Be sure to tell yourself, I see only the perishable. I see nothing that will last. What I see is not real. What I see is a form of vengeance. And after you spent your minute looking around, telling yourself that, then say, is this the world I really want to see? So until tomorrow, what I see is a form of vengeance. Thank you.